So we have here a Transboundary Groundwater Resiliency Research Network activity, and I've been talking to people at the COP26 climate talks back in the fall, and more recently with the Water and Climate Coalition that's been organized as part of the World Meteorological Organization activities, that there's increasing ability to basically grapple with carbon and energy aspects of climate change, but the water budget part is really still requiring a lot of attention. World Meteorological Organization, IPCC, and the UN different adaptation committee and other groups are working with the hydrology of water budget issues. But there's a big gap in terms of connecting the human component into modeling and into the adaptation that basically provides resiliency and avoids loss and damage, essentially suffering the effects of climate change without adapting to be able to mitigate or ameliorate them. So I'm just really encouraged about the need at the international level for the sort of effort we're doing with our little interlocking puzzle pieces that include that social piece along with hydrology and data and system science. So just kind of an encouraging note from, I'm in London right now, so an encouraging note from the people I've talked to.
Now with the mute off. Thank you so much, Sam. And good morning, and good evening to Sam, but good morning to the rest of you. My name is Christine Kirkpatrick. I'm part of the Transboundary Groundwater Resiliency Research Network. A little hard to say at 8 a.m. in the morning, but we're almost to the weekend. I'm at the San Diego Supercomputer Center, and I'm also proud to be part of the West Big Data Innovation Hub, an important partner in this network. So we've gathered here today to do some fun interactive activities around stakeholder mapping, which I'll explain. I'll give you a quick recap. If you were hoping to just be bored by PowerPoint, then this won't be the session for you. If you came excited to interact with others who have similar research and work issues and existential issues about water, then you've come to the right place. Some of these things you'll say, oh, it's so much nicer to be in person, which it absolutely is, and the snacks would be much better. But some of these tools actually work pretty well. And even if we were in person, we'd be asking you to take out your phone or your iPad and follow along with a few of these. And then we'll stop, and as much time as we have at the end, we'll get your additional thoughts on charting future work and perhaps other sessions. So again, just to back up and say, stakeholder mapping or what are we working on today? Of course, all of us rely on water to live, so we have that in common. But then, issues branch out from there. For example, the issues surrounding water scarcity, say, for a California almond farmer, are going to be different than that of someone who, relies on tourist dollars that are related to water. And so we'd really like to get at what are the specific work and priorities that this network, as a network of networks, should take on, and how do those issues map across the different stakeholder groups? And we do this so that we can suggest ways that we might interact, from a range of monitoring what certain stakeholders think about different situations, to really needing to actively partner, or to making sure that we're communicating well, depending on where the impact and influence falls. So with that, for the first part of what we're going to do, we have this interactive tool. You may have used it through other sessions. It's at menti.com. If Julie was reminding me yesterday that if you take your phone and switch to the camera, you can just hover over this QR code and it will bring this up without having to type anything else. But if you're on your computer, it's also easy enough to open a browser window, go to menti.com and enter this code. So we'll all go there together now, and I will switch to this window. So I'll give you just another minute. Well, not quite a minute, a quick minute. And Julie's also put some directions in the chat as well. Okay, so it looks very small here. This is, but on your screen, you can make it bigger, and it works even better on the phone if you can believe it. It's the categories are much easier to see. So I'd just like you to take just a quick minute and let me know of all these different stakeholder groups, which one best describes, of many, right? We're all water users probably, but which one do you most closely align with? Okay, so I'm seeing some pretty strong clustering around research and academic institutions and researchers, modelers, and engineers. And don't worry if this is a bridge too far. I didn't see anyone that's on the phone only. If that does come up, I'll use my vote to put in who you are and your selection. Okay, let's go to the next one, which is going to ask you, instead of just the one, what are all the groups that you represent today? Okay, so I'm already seeing we have a broader spread of stakeholder groups. Oh, wow. We've almost got people in all of them, from data science, scientist analyst, environmental monitoring agencies to government agencies, infrastructure providers, irrigation district managers, local groundwater conservation districts, NGO community policymakers, still real heavy on the research academic and researcher modelers, transboundary groundwater consultants, and then at least 5 of you are water users. I am one as well. Okay, well, I think this is meant to illustrate, and actually we're capturing this data so that we can add it into a more formal stakeholder mapping. But shows you that we come from different backgrounds, and one of them might be our primary area of focus, but we are spanning several of these other areas as well. Okay, so the first thing that I'd like to guide us through doing is, in a previous session, we explored what could the different stakeholders be. That's how we got the list that we just used. And we also explored what are the top issues across any stakeholder group that people could think of related to transboundary water and aquifers. So with your permission, we're going to use one more tool, and then you will have used all the tools for the session. And this one actually works better. It's got quicker analysis of all the input. If we were together, I would be giving you stickers and we would be voting with the stickers. But what you're going to do is you're going to, we'll put this link in the chat, and there it is. We're going to go to a tool called Retrium. Now, you don't have to create an account, just select guest and type in your name. Doesn't have to be even your real name if you don't want, or you can go through creating an account. So let's go there together. And I've already logged in. So, and I see a few of you have made it. And let me also say, while you're getting in there, so this is our original list from the previous stakeholder mapping, and you can see it's quite long. It's 27 issues. And that's a lot for anyone to rank, especially during a 1-hour interactive session. So we categorize those, and I hope my colleagues will forgive me for taking some liberties on some of the things that category names that I made up that might not fit the best, but it was just about getting it and condensing it. Okay, there we go. Now, hopefully you can see all the issues. It might be really small type, so I will also be trying to read as much as I can. And another reminder, we have live Spanish translation, and so some of it is to give a chance for that to occur as well. So we have 27 issues, if I counted right, and we're trying to get down to 12, a manageable number. And we're not going to ditch the others, so don't worry if something's really important to you. Well, then you should vote for it, but don't worry if something falls off the list. It's not actually getting deleted. This is just giving us a manageable set with which to work. Okay, so the first question I want to ask is, are any jumping out at you just of these notes? Don't worry about my kind of crazy categories I came up with, but of these actual headings here, are any of these issues not quite worded right? Do you see two that really could become one? And let me just open it up to the floor. Feel free to unmute yourself. Or perhaps there's one you don't understand what it really is getting at, and we can discuss that too and reword it. Let me start by reading over a bit conflict and misalignment. Okay, communication and language barriers, conflicting demands between users, conflicting perceptions and goals. The input for one can be considered the input for the other. Differing groundwater laws, regulations and structures, litigation, national security implications, power imbalances and lack of representation, threats to binational treaty obligations and compliance with transboundary treaties, and the tragedies of the commons. And I did have to look up this word conjunctive use, but basically, I think this refers to the Eleanor Ostrom work about managing commons and how that can fall into disarray. So any questions or ones that we would like to reword? Okay, well, perhaps if, well, and let me stop too. Is anyone listening in on the Spanish translation? Would they like me to read over any of the other columns? Okay, I will take silence as a permission to proceed.
I have a question, Christine.
Please.
How do I see the, like when I can see conflict misalignment, but then I just see these fuzzy rectangles and I can't see the content.
That's what's
Is there a
happening.
way?
Everything's fuzzed out.
Sorry, are others seeing that as well?
Yeah, the header is visible, but everything else is blurred. Like we don't have access to it.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Is that better?
Yep.
Okay, the tool isn't perfect, and once I get to this spot, it doesn't let me easily go back and edit the notes, so I apologize for that. Let me, yeah, so I think we're, okay, so now
the other thing that happens, like I can just see like two of the groups, and it says it's up to you to move to the next phase. So, oh, I see. If I have to, I think I got it. If I zoom out, I can see the groups. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for your trust to try this kind of crazy way of doing it online.
I'm wondering, the question that you had about the conflict misalignment, I can actually see all the categories now. So now that I can see them, can can you repeat your question about the conflict misalignment?
Sure. So it was just should any of these be grouped together? I think I've.
Maybe the conflicting demands between the users and the tragedy of the commons could be together.
Yes, let's see. It looks like we've got people grouping things. Where did it go? Okay. Any other thoughts? Do you, because we're going to vote on these in a moment. And so things that are collapsed kind of give you a way to vote for two things. Okay, this is great. We've got a few things that we're putting together and things that have moved into different categories.
So I think there's a way to combine a couple, which is the groundwater recharge and groundwater extraction. I mean, it's sort of, it depends on your perspective. Like it could be the water budget equilibrium, which would then include both extraction and recharge. But also some people care a lot about one or the other. So
Well, let's see. Hopefully it lets us vote for the group. This is my hope. And again, thanks for trying this out, but it makes the ranking much easier. Do we have any suggested group titles for these other groupings or were these not intentional groupings? We've got the one that's national security implications, power imbalances, and threat to binational treaty obligations. Or this one that we grouped here, that was the tragedy of the commons and conflicting demands between users and conflicting perceptions and goals. Or maybe we can just let those be together. Are people ready to go ahead and vote? And we're just trying to come up with a list of 12.
what can we talk a little about what the group title might be for tragedy of the commons, conflicting
Sure.
demands, and
Yes.
conflicting perceptions?
Oh, yes, please.
It
Do you
seems
have
like
any suggestions?
it seems like the focus there is on the perceptions of and the demands of the community associated with the aquifer. I don't know if that's why those got put together, but it seems to be the people who are associated with this resource have these complexities of use, of demands, of perceptions. I'm not sure if that's what.
I was thinking maybe something to do with maybe the perceptions of demands could come under equitable distribution or something like that.
think that's a great suggestion.
Yeah, that's nice.
When we have two other groupings, if it was intentional, that we could look at.
Can I just jump in real
Please.
quickly?
Mhm.
I'm looking at that tragedy of the commons, conflicting demands and so on. Isn't that also very related to the other category of maintaining, achieving harmony?
Certainly.
Or are these, I mean, are you seeing these as different? Or, I mean, I'm wondering if when you're looking at equity, I mean, that's tragedy of the commons, that's the conflicts. I don't know so much about labor market variations, but I'm just wondering if those are all somehow more related than conflict misalignment. I don't know.
Sure, and I apologize to Sam and Kristen. I just lost our title, so help me reconstruct it, please. Oops. Oh, someone is. Okay, perfect.
Somebody's going. Go ahead. We said perceptions and demands of equitable
distribution.
Thank you.
Seems like somehow we should include a scarce resource in there. If there was plenty of it, we wouldn't have these conflicts and misalignments, so to speak.
Let's see, this one's actually data scarcity, so probably not that one.
Mhm.
Surface water variability, I guess that's maybe the physical variability.
Maybe something, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a phrase, but something with natural limitations or something along that line.
Yes, and I apologize that I think speaking of limitations, we're finding one of our chosen tool today, which is once I advanced us to this grouping stage, I lost the ability to edit the notes or edit these. They call these notes, the note cards themselves. Well, I suggest that we move on to the voting stage, even if this isn't quite perfect. Oh, and thank you so much for the people giving us some new group names. These are very good and much better.
Let me just throw out one more.
Sure, please,
And
yes.
just because I'm not sure how to do this on here. Under technical legal challenges, I do think that the first one, which is differing methodologies and systems, is the technical. The other three, to me, are the more legal. And I think maybe you separate, the first one from the other three. Well, I don't know about where you're moving it, but I'm just saying that one is a technical challenge. But the other three, enforcement, differing groundwater laws, private property rights, those are legal challenges to me. So I don't know if you want to.
Sure, and actually data scarcity should be closer with this one, I think.
Yeah.
So I'll just give these a text.
Exactly.
And I'm sorry, I wish I could edit this. It's very frustrating. Yes, thank you for thank you for that change. You're absolutely right. Okay.
The other three can be a legal challenges group, it sounds like.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I can't edit these columns, but you know what I can do is I can group these and we'll just call them legal challenges. That will fix it. Right. Okay.
And I know you can't change anything, but there we've got the technical challenges, the legal challenges, but legal challenges aren't always open to all. I mean, thinking like a sociologist, it's not always open to all users. So I guess if you were able to, I'd almost put in something like social challenges, and I realize that you can't change anything there, but
I can change this one.
Okay, yeah, I think that would work.
We'll just,
Or maybe social and legal challenges, because they would actually be kind of two different things, but
Yeah,
at
I
least,
think they are.
yeah, you'd at least have that idea in there that, yeah, there's social challenges that would be ideally separate from the legal challenges.
but
But
yes, you're,
I think I'm
please.
hearing we need a new group that's social challenges, or a new card.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, so what you're saying, if I understand what you're saying, that should just be legal challenges. And then we have a new subgroup in there that's social challenges.
Yes, but I don't think you're able to add that group. Is that correct?
Well, you can't add more notes at this phase, but if you
Right.
see any other notes that really encapsulate social challenges, we can make a new group.
Well, and a lot of the conflict misalignment and maybe some of the maintaining and achieving harmony would be considered social challenges, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So let's, okay, litigation
That would be legal challenge.
here. And then, let's see, let me, wouldn't this, yeah, thank you. Pull this one out of there. All right, okay, this is looking much better. This labor market variations doesn't feel like it fits well under my made up heading here. Is there any place, would this be any place it goes better?
Hmm.
So water budget equilibrium.
I would
What are
say
you looking
social
at?
challenges,
Social?
labor market variations. Yeah, I don't know.
That would be sort of, yeah, socioeconomic.
Yeah.
There you go, socioeconomic. Just add that to the title.
Okay, are we set?
And the under, right now you have under, so that social challenge, you have the threats to binational treaty obligations, compliance with transboundary treaties, that's legal. Wouldn't that move over?
Yeah, I think it should.
Nice.
Pretty cool.
Okay, let's move ahead to voting. And again, I know this is a little funky, not perfect. So thank you again. This is a much better list than we started with.
I'm sorry, Christine, there's a note in the chat, and I'm not positive it got incorporated.
Oh, I think Julie, is that okay now?
Yeah, you were just talking about the social challenges.
Okay, perfect. So let's see here. So it figures out on its own based on how many topics you could vote on, how many votes you have. So it's given each person 5 votes. So now for the next step, if you'd like, what I want you to do is just pick the things that you think are the top 12. And it does look like you can vote for a group, right? Just by, oops, okay. And you can remove your votes this way. So you can put all 5 votes on one thing, you can give it, 1 to 5 votes. And if you click the wrong thing, a little X should show up where you can unclick the vote. Now, again, if there was anyone who's unable to make this work, I could use my votes. to plug in here for you. So let's just take 1 or 2 more minutes because I want to make sure we have time for you to go into some breakout groups after this.
Christine, quick question. Do you mean the most important, maybe from my social science perspective, or do you mean most important to this group in general?
No, to you. Which things? So if our network was going to do work, promote research, delve into things, what things do you want to hear about? And you can think from the group that you said you most closely align with from that first poll.
Great, thank you.
I already used all my votes. I was trying to vote and it wouldn't let me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not able to figure out how to vote. How do you vote?
So it's this plus thing
Oh, okay.
is how you vote. And then if you vote on the wrong thing, hover over your vote and exit out.
And we each have a total of 5, right? For all
Correct.
of these. Okay.
5
Gotcha.
tokens. And
Okay,
you can,
gotcha.
These are like the little stickers you put next to your topic on the whiteboard.
exactly. And so Julie, just a quick note for you. If we end up with some of the top votes are for these groups, then just use that heading in the next step. Because it would be pretty hard to include all of that. Okay, don't let me distract you. I'm just going to use up my 5 votes. But I'm not trying to sway what you would do. Okay, are we ready to move ahead? Does anyone need another 30 seconds or so, or are we good?
Good.
Yeah, I think I'm good. We don't have to click a submit or something. Once we do those, it's okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'll stop the voting when I click the next thing, and that'll submit things. Okay, last call for don't close the votes. Okay. All right, so the thing that got the top number of votes was this perceptions and demands of equitable distribution. And we included under that group conflicting demands between users, tragedy of the commons, conflicting perceptions and goals. The next thing that got looks like 9 votes, socioeconomic challenges, which included communication and language barriers, power imbalances and lack of representation, and labor market variations. Next up, climate change impacts. After that, with 8 votes, water budget equilibrium, which was groundwater recharge and extraction. Then tied with that was legal challenges, and I won't read all of those, but thank you again. I think this turned into a much better grouping than we started with. And then coming in with 6 votes, agricultural sustainability. 5 votes for equity, social, political, and economic. Also tied with ecosystem health. And then technical challenges. I think you're going to be hearing about this from the network, given that a few of us, this is our background, so data scarcity and differing methodologies and system characterizations. And then, of course, groundwater pollution and environmental degradation got 2 votes, along with biophysical resource health and changing water demands. Okay, awesome. Let me switch back to this. So we've got now, let's see, we're going to spend 10 minutes in breakout groups, and this is just meant to be very quick. It'll be over almost after it began. I just want to give, we're not a huge group today, but still there's not a chance for each person to say something. Just give your name, your institution. You don't have to say more than that. And then if you like, you could say which issue from the last exercise most resonated with you, or you might say which stakeholder group that you most identified with. There we are. I thought I'd lost Zoom for a moment. So I'm going to reshare my screen, and just because I want to let people go on time, you probably have other meetings to get to. So I want to make sure we finish up the last little bit, because it will really help us with the data we're trying to collect for the stakeholder mapping.
I don't think everybody's back yet.
Yeah, it looks like we might be missing maybe 1 breakout room. And hopefully you still have a window open with Menti, but if not, they'll give everyone a chance to get back there. Okay, it looks like we have all the groups back. Thanks so much. I know it was quick, but in our group, we had just enough time to get through everyone's introductions. And if I could give a summary, it would be everyone that's here as a participant could be the person speaking for the whole hour, and we would all be enraptured with what they had to say. There's so many interesting and important areas and networks represented with all of you who've tuned in today. Okay, so we're going to go back to Menti. Hopefully you still have the window open. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that list that we had just voted on, and we're going to rank them. And again, if you're not sure how to get to Menti, it's just menti.com and put in this code. And we've also got the information in the chat. And this is, again, just from your perspective. So it looks like we've got several votes in. And it looks like climate change impacts has got a strong lead for the top one. And of course, many of these are interrelated. Let me just pause and say, does anyone have any comments as they're doing this ranking?
Yeah, I've got a question. What is the y-axis there? Relatively, how much more does climate change have than socioeconomic challenges or something like that?
I can't see from this view, but once it's complete, I'll be able to tell you, and we'll include this data in our follow-up. I apologize.
No,
But
no, that's okay. I was just interested.
But we have, I think 18 votes. I'm not sure if our translators voted, although they'd be welcome to, because they are water users, as are all humans. So it's probably, say, 16 votes for the, if I'm guessing that first one's probably got 15 votes.
So does it weight this number based on the rank that is given to climate change impacts?
Yes. So that means many people put it as the first or up towards the top. And I'm sorry, there's some statistical word I should know to tell you the ranking algorithm. But yeah, but basically. Well, and Bill put in the chat that he markets, brokers, and sells water rights. And based on the first chart of groups, he finds it difficult to rank them because he deals with every one of them every day. And every one of them can affect the feasibility of a transaction and an economic opportunity. So I think that's an important point is, we're ranking them because we're trying to pick out the top 5 to do one more follow-up exercise before we break. But obviously you could rank legal challenges lower perhaps because it's going to find you. You don't have to decide. You can't decide, oh, well, I'm not going to care about the legal challenges because someone will initiate that and it will become an issue. So, and of course, yes, all of these I think are on here because they're extremely important in the space that we're talking about. Okay, well, let's see. Do we have anyone who needs a few more, like 30 seconds to submit their vote? Because otherwise I will ask Julie to fill in at least the next slide and we will, okay, great. We'll move on to the next question. So I think we can see, and we're just going to focus on these top 5 for now. Now, what I'd like to ask you to do is going back to this list of stakeholders, the first 2 questions where it was, what do you represent most closely? And what are all the groups you represent? Well, now think with the hats of these different groups, which ones are affected by the climate change impacts? So I think this is, this would be a hard one to say that no one is, but it's possible. And I think with the next couple, we might find that some are more important to some groups than others. Well, and this is perhaps why everyone ranked this one so above. It's just very cross-cutting. And so this would be an area where we'd say there's a lot of alignment, right? That, climate change is a focus, especially how it's affecting transboundary aquifers.
What do you mean a lot of alignment?
Well, let me, actually, I have something, so this is what I mean by alignment. So when you can say that all of these different stakeholders with this potential issue are all seeing it as a top priority, you see a lot of clustering, then that's alignment, and it points us to a place that we might have an early win focusing on. Although climate change and early win are 2 phrases that don't often go together, but in studying it perhaps, and in brainstorming and delving into it further, we'd have an early win for our network, let's say. That might be not for climate change, although I would love to see some early wins on climate change.
Maybe on adaptation.
Yeah, let's hope. Okay, Let's move ahead to the next, the one that had the next most votes, which was the socioeconomic challenges, right? And we had that grouping. So which of these stakeholder groups are affected by socioeconomic challenges? And for those of you who finished voting, Bill had another interesting observation about the last issue, that climate change affects consumptive use or the amount of water removed from the accessible surface and groundwater. And he's working on a transfer right now where this is a foreseen problem. So thank you, Bill, for that comment. So this one again, there's votes for every single one of these stakeholder groups, but it's not, you'll notice it's not as uniform as it was for climate change, which kind of had the more peanut butter spread. But, it looks like this is a place where there's some alignment of interest. Well, let's go ahead and move to the next one, unless we have any quick pleas to stay here. Okay, let's do the same for that grouping that we made that was perceptions and demands of equitable distribution. So which stakeholder groups will see that as an important issue? Okay, and I think we're seeing some trends. It might be too that in a few of these categories, we don't have many people here that are representing those groups. But I think, with the expertise today, we can imagine, and we're seeing a few places here where equitable distribution, isn't the top concern. Say for a transboundary groundwater consultant, right? They're transacting between groups. They're not trying to fix it for everyone, perhaps. Whereas for a government agency, that could be something of prime importance. Okay, let's move on to the next one. We'll do perhaps one more with the time, and then I'm going to move over to the closing. Okay, this is a bit related to the last one. Which stakeholder groups are concerned with equity? Okay, so I think with almost all the votes in, we're seeing another trend here. So this one, it's like it's very important for some, but the perception isn't across the board that many of these actors are, waking up every morning thinking I've got to work on equity, or it just might be the reality of their job. Now, of course, this varies, these stakeholder groups are broad. Okay, well, let's see. Let me just watching the time. So where we're going to take this is we're going to use this as input to complete something that will look a bit like this, a stakeholder map that we'll review with you in one of our next events. And this is, again, where we're going to use to say, okay, where are the early wins? Where are the issues that are a focus for many of these stakeholder groups that we know are part of the TGRR? And then we're also going to look at kind of some of those on the bar graph, which gave us a very coarse-grained view of things, but where are there misalignments and why? And I think actually we have expertise within our network that could probably tell us and explain some of those misalignments. And so we'll be reaching out to you to see if you'd like to engage with us on some of these topics and help us shed light on these. I do want to, draw your attention to our next TGRR event, which takes place next week. January 28th sounds so far in the future, but that is next week, it turns out. It'll be just for an hour at 10 Mountain Time, where we will have the speaker, Emmanuel Padmore-Manti, who's the president of Engineers Without Borders at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and he's also a researcher in Ghana. If you'd like to sign up, and let's see if I can't, we will try and paste this into the chat for you, but it's also on our website here at TGRR NMWRRI-NMSU.edu. Trying to say that 3 times fast. So with that, I know we're 1 minute over. Let me just stop sharing. And for those of you who don't have to jump off at this moment, if there's something you'd like to say or a comment you'd like to make or a question, I can stay on at least for a few more minutes. But thank you all for those of you who have to jump off. Okay, Kristen's asking, can we get a list of people who were in our breakout group? I mean, I think everyone who was on the line submitted to be recorded. So I would think it'd be fine within those groups to share if that's something that we can do. Oh, and thank you, Julie, for pasting that into the chat. Well, thanks also to our TGRR network organizers for making this happen and bringing us all together.